was given a blow as judges stay put, and that is one of the top stories we are taking a look at on this morning on the papers. My name is Alfonsoh. Use the hashtag The Morning Momentum at Younib MEDIA TV at Alfonsoh Albakwekwe. Now, let's take a look at the Standard. The top story this morning, blow to Gachagua as judges stay put. Fresh from blows in the National Assembly, the Senate and the courts last week impeached Deputy President's attempt to block a three-judge bench set up by Deputy CJ Philomena Mwilu to hear impeachment cases fell apart, with judges dressing down lawyers for their conduct during hearing of the application. That story is beefed up for you on page 4. The three-judge bench include Justice Eric Ogola, Justice Anthony Mrima, Justice and Justice Freda Mugambi. On page 24 on the Standard this morning, a U.S. poll, Kamala says U.S. ready for woman president. On page 8 of the Standard, overhaul calls as more university fights for survival. Now, the troubled institution requires financial bailouts, robust reforms in governance and leadership, even as reopening debt remains hazy. On page 2, what next? IMF's job answer to Gen Z protests. Now, to address growing unrest among the youth in sub-Saharan African countries, the International Monetary Fund wants Kenya and other nations in the continent to prioritize job creation and has identified 3 major challenges that it says must be addressed to improve job prospects. More of that is beefed up for you on page 2. Now, let's move on and take a look at that story. IMF warns of crisis if no action is taken to create jobs for Gen Z. Kenya and Africa advised to diversify economies, moving beyond traditional sectors. IMF cautions that failure to act could exacerbate poverty, fuel instability, and drive migration. That story is beefed up for you on page 2. On page 3, anxiety. Intense lobbying amid DP ouster and Kindiki elevation. In Parliament, a shake-up targeting MPs and senators affiliated to Gachagua is in the offing. Some leaders in Kenya Kwanza already angling to lead the powerful interior docket. That story is beefed up for you on page 3 of the Standard this morning. On page 4, Gachagua suffers blow as judges reject a recusal plea, reproach lawyers. Now, Gachagua sought that the judges not hear a case as they were not properly selected. Judges say the Deputy Chief Justice can empanel a bench in the absence of the Chief Justice. That story is beefed up for you on page 4 of the Standard this morning. On page 5, Tangwa seeks 4-year term for all elected leaders. Kiambu Senator Karungo Tangwa says this will enhance accountability. His bill challenges one by Nandi Senator Samson Cherargei, which seeks to increase the presidential term limit from 5 years to 7 years. More of that story is beefed up for you on page 5 of the Standard this morning. Let's take a look at page 6. Religious leaders now differ on claims state is muzzling the church. Now, some religious leaders say state is silencing preachers and congregants. NCCK says the state cannot deny freedom of worship enriched in the Constitution. That story is beefed up for you on page 6. On page 7, Kindiki and Wandai in a spot for not honoring invite to meet senators. Now, Senate expected Wandai and Kindiki to answer questions, but they didn't show up. Halwale said Kindiki has been packed as DP, so shouldn't answer ministry questions. That story is beefed up for you on page 7 of the Standard this morning. Let's move on and take a look at page 8. Now, Moi University fights for survival amid calls for an urgent overhaul. Education CS Julius Ogamba says government doing all it can to revive the university. Tinderet MP Julius Meli says they have requested for government bailout. That story is beefed up for you on page 8. These are some of the messes at the Moi University. Now, Moi University remains closed, with Education CS Julius Ogamba stressing the need for reforms in governance, financial management, and leadership for sustainability. The university has been facing long-standing issues dating back to 2015, including financial crisis and mismanagement. A government bailout and financial support are being sought to revive the institution, with 609 million shillings already released to pay staff salaries. A caretaker committee will be formed to oversee the university's recovery, involving the National Treasury and regional political leaders. Moi University requires 315 million shillings per month for 2 years, a one-time 2.4 billion shillings for debt clearance, and 1.05 billion shillings for salary arrears. Moi University's financial woes are linked to mismanagement, the collapse of privately sponsored student program, and rapid expansion. The university's payroll consumes 88% of its revenue, much higher than the 35% typical for other institutions. The number of students dropped from 37,125 in 2015 to 20,557, causing a revenue decline. Let's move on and take a look at page 9. Japan, Canada give 2.8 billion shillings for medical oxygen factories. The facilities in Kenya and Tanzania are expected to produce more than 2,000 tons of oxygen. One plant in Kilifi will create 3,000 direct and another 1,000 indirect jobs. Now, in numbers, 7,000 tons is the amount of oxygen that is needed in Kenya and Tanzania. Let's move on and take a look at page 10. Court stops judgment on 7 linked to murder of former MP. Now, a magistrate court was to give judgment on 10 counts of robbery with violence charges. The suspects claim they were not given a chance to present their defense. That story is beefed up for you on page 10. Now, on page 11, Equity blocked from Trans-Century takeover. Judge finds that the bank had jumped the gun. The two companies had demonstrated they had means to repay loans. That story is beefed up for you on page 11 of the Standard this morning. Let's shift gears and take a look at the expert opinion. Beyond words, stop ignoring clerics' views on issues of national concerns. Now, religious leaders in Kenya are very angry and disappointed with the Kenya Kwanza government. Recently, several videos have gone viral online with daring the devil messages from respected pastors. The latest features Reverend Pastor Teresia Wairimu, who could not hold any longer her embarrassment at the very government she told her congregants was ordained by God. The sense of bewilderment at the poor government service delivery is palpable among many religious leaders. You want to catch up with more of that opinion on page 12. Now, let's move on and take a look at page 15. Politics. Leaders should stop celebrating Gachagua's impeachment. It is not a development project. On October 17th, Senate upheld the decision of the National Assembly to impeach Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua after a motion was tabled by Kibwezi East Member of Parliament, Mwingi Mutuse. There were 11 grounds of impeachment against Gachagua. Now, it is good for MPs to do oversight work and put leaders on their toes, but the main reason they were elected to Parliament is to represent the interests of their constituents, says this opinion. So you want to catch up with more of that on page 15. Let's shift gears and take a look at county news on the Standard this morning. Governor clashes with senators over summons. Isiolo governor claims Senator Fatuma Dulo was using the Senate to settle scores. Senate fines him 500,000 shillings for not appearing before committee. That story is beefed up for you on page 16. In Kilifi County, residents reject Adani takeover. Residents evicted to pave the way for expansion of Malindi Airport have moved to court seeking compensation for their land before expected takeover of the facility by Adani Holding Limited. In Kericho County, DAM to step up rice farming. The stalled Soin Koro Dam to step up rice farming. The stalled Soin Koru Dam project will help reduce importation of rice by 20% upon completion, the government has announced. In Naivasha, tomato yields to go up. Tomato production is expected to double following introduction of a new grafting technology by Egerton University and the Confucius Institute in China. In Mombasa County, the county officials fault EACC. 4 Taita Taveta county officials facing graft charges have questioned a social media post by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission indicating they were facing charges of swindling 7 million shillings. Appearing before Mombasa Chief Magistrate Alex Ithuku through their lawyer John Bwire, they claimed the post was malicious and implied the persons were already guilty. In Nairobi County, diaspora pushes for voting rights in Kenyan polls. Kenyans living abroad will meet with the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee of Parliament in mid-November to push for their long-sought voting rights in national elections. More of that is beefed up for you on page 16. Now, let's move on and take a look at other stories on the Standard this morning. The real estate lovers, you have the article beefed up for you on the Standard this morning. Now, let's move on and take a look at sports news. Bronny James make NBA history as Lakers triumph. They became the first father and son to play alongside each other in regular season fixture. LeBron says it is something she will never forget no matter how old they get. That story is beefed up for you on page 45. In matters rugby, South Africa shattered by divorce of Kolisi. South Africans were stunned yesterday after news emerged that one of the country's most prominent couples, Springbok rugby captain Siya Kolisi and his wife Rachel, were divorcing. The mixed-race celebrity couple, who are a symbol of the Rainbow Nation, made a joint announcement late Tuesday on Instagram. On page 46 this morning on the Standard, junior starlets take positives from World Cup. Head coach Cheche pleased with her Chargers performance on debut. 4 Kenyan players scouted by European clubs. That story is beefed up for you on page 46. Still on page 46, on matters boxing, Macharia storms into Africa Boxing Championships finals. National super heavyweight champion Clinton Macharia has punched his way to the finals of the Africa Boxing Championships in Kinshasa, DRC. Congratulations to the gentleman. Let's take a look at the EPL. Mourinho reunion, a reminder of how little has changed at Manchester United. Manchester United face Fenerbahce in Europa League action today. Ten Hag's side have only 2 points from the opening 2 matches. That story is beefed up for you on page 47. Let's take a look at the cover page of the Standard this morning. Vinicius shows his real class again against Dortmund. Brazil and Real Madrid star says they listened to their coach as they went to the breather, trailing 2-0. Aston Villa go top of the table as Arsenal beat Shakhtar despite Trossard missing penalty. That story is beefed up for you on the cover page. Now, with that story, we take a quick break here on the Morning Momentum. We are coming back with more stories on the Daily Nation. Don't go away. See you on the other side of this broadcast.
Je, wewe ni mfanyabiashara katika sekta ya elimu, afya bora, usafiri ama unamiliki kampuni yoyote ile? Ungependa kupata fursa ya kutangaza biashara yako ili kuwafikia wateja zaidi? Usikonde. Runinga ya Younib inakupa fursa ya kupeperusha matangazo kuhusu bidhaa na huduma unazotoa kwa bei nafuu. Kwa maelezo zaidi, wasiliana nasi kupitia nambari za simu 0750344700 ama kupitia barua pepe marketing@younibtv.com. Jinyakulie leo. Younib TV, ever the best.
Welcome back to the Morning Momentum. If you're just joining us, many thanks for tuning in. You are rolling with the host with the most. My name is Alfonsoh. Let's take a look at the Daily Nation this morning. On the front page, Gachagua versus Parliament standoff. Now, even after losing their case, questioning the powers of the Deputy Chief Justice in assigning a bench, the impeached Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua's lawyers yesterday managed to further stall the hearing of the respondent's plea to the court to lift orders stopping the assumption of office of the Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki, while the petitioners signaled their intention to appeal the ruling by the three-judge bench. They also insisted that an application seeking the recusal of the judges for alleged bias be heard and determined first. That story is beefed up for you on page 4 and page 5 of the Daily Nation this morning. This is all about the Titanic battle, as the Daily Nation puts it. And these are the petitions. The Mwilu petition says judges find DCJ has powers to appoint bench, but Mr. Gachagua's lawyers have already signaled their intention to appeal the ruling. Recusal of the bench, ousted DP's lawyers insist their application seeking the recusal of the bench for alleged bias be heard before any other matter. Petition on lifting of conservatory order. Lawyers for Parliament and Attorney General who want their case seeking to lift order stopping swearing in of Interior CS Kithure Kindiki as DP heard first will have to wait a bit longer. So it's a Titanic battle. Now let's take a look at page 8. We don't have time to wait. Patients tell Ruto. This is all about the Social Health Insurance Fund woes. We'll take a look at that in a short while. Also on the back page, grade 9 crisis to persist even as textbooks are distributed. Learners joining grade 9 in January next year will face a myriad challenges ranging from a shortage of teachers to inadequate infrastructure, even as the government works to fix the problems. Junior school remain the most understaffed segment in the basic education cycle. The staffing does not also match the skill sets of the teachers. Now, on page 2, some sad news. Missing Wells Fargo Human Resource Director found dead. Police confirmed body of man recovered early yesterday in Gamesier County is that of missing Wells Fargo Human Resource boss Willis Yeko. Our condolences goes to the family. Now, let's move on and take a look at page 2. Wells Fargo boss body recovered. Ayeko went missing on Friday last week, and police are looking for 2 suspects seen parking Ayeko's car. On page 3, police probe drugs, sex ring angle in murder of politician's daughter. After the party, Nyakio retired to spend the night at a friend's house in crime-prone Biafra estate. Now, an officer told Nation the syndicate targets university and college students in Thika. That sad story is beefed up for you on page 3. Let's move on and take a look at page 4. DP removal cases face further delay on legal ping-pong. Lawyers for the Attorney General and Parliament accuses those of Mr. Gachagua and other petitioners of countless applications to slow down court. Judges hearing petition to lift orders, barring Kindiki swearing in, expected to decide whether they will recuse themselves today. That story is beefed up for you on page 4 of the Daily Nation this morning. Let's move on and take a look at page 6. Speculation as Kindiki fails to honor summons. Now, Deputy President designate did not give reasons for not appearing before the senators. Professor Kindiki was nominated and approved to replace Mr. Gachagua as DP, but his swearing in was halted by the High Court. On page 7 of the Daily Nation this morning, Ruto's list of political legal battles continues to grow. The president is expected to forge alliances with leaders from Western Kenya. Nyeri Governor Mutahi Kahiga says Mountain will find it hard to forgive the president. That story is beefed up for you on page 7 of the Daily Nation this morning. Let's move on and take a look at page 8. No time to wait, say patience to Ruto on appeal for patience. Now, Ruto has asked Kenyans to be patient with the Social Health Insurance Fund, saying the system will be running efficiently in a matter of weeks. Patients say they don't have the luxury to wait as the state fixes a social health authority mess while diseases ravage their bodies. That story is beefed up for you on page 8. In numbers, 29,300 is the number of people who die of cancer in Kenya every year. Cancer patients have urged the government to reinstate access to full services under the Social Health Insurance Fund. 315,000 shillings is the amount of money Miss Esther Wambui's aunt was asked to pay in cash for chemotherapy sessions, which had been approved under NHIF. That story is beefed up for you on page 18. This story of Social Health Authority and the Social Health Insurance Fund is a thorn in the flesh to many Kenyans this morning on the Daily Nation. Now, let's move on and take a look at page 10. End of an era as the iconic Kanu House faces auction over 212 million shillings electricity bill. Once a symbol of power for the Independence Party for political prisoners, it was dreaded. Judge allows Kenya Power to proceed with the sale of two-story building after party defaults on payments. That story is beefed up for you on page 10. Let's take a look at page 11. Why hearing of 2 billion shillings land case was put off. Another appeal has been filed by Jacob Juma's widow, Miriam Wairimu Wambugu, who also claims the land. A bench of 3 judges also barred ex-PC Davis Nathan Chelogoi from interfering with or taking possession of the land located in Loresho, Nairobi. That story is beefed up for you on page 11. Now, let's move on swiftly and take a look at the expert opinion on the Daily Nation this morning. Lessons from Kenya Nobel Peace Prize winners. Now, the work of this year's winners of the Nobel Economics Prize has crucial lessons for Kenya and other African countries. Professors Daron Asemoglu, James Robinson, and Simon Johnson provide empirical evidence that the quality of institutions a country has make the difference between its social economic success and failure. That story is beefed up for you on page 14. Now, AI in tackling cyberbullying is also an article beefed up for you here. Artificial intelligence has brought with it challenges and opportunities in equal measure in the fight against cyberbullying. Recent research studies from the Cyberbullying Research Center show that 37% of young people between 12 years and 17 years old have experienced cyberbullying. However, understanding and using AI tools has turned into a formidable countermeasure. That story is beefed up for you on page 14. Let's take a look at county news on the Daily Nation this morning. We start with Isiolo County. Why Isiolo governor is in Senate panel's bad books. First-term governor has been fined 500,000 shillings and senators have rejected his apology. Guyo directed to appear before Whole House Committee for skipping previous summons. That story is beefed up for you on page 17. Let's stay there a little bit and take a look at Bomet County. School loses prime land to politician. A school in Bomet has lost its bid to retain 10.6 acres following a court ruling in favor of company linked to a former gubernatorial candidate. The Environment and Land Court in Kericho ordered St. Michael's Primary School to vacate the land within 45 days. In Nairobi, Mukuru boreholes failed to serve locals. 2 boreholes sunk by the Nairobi Metropolitan Services meant for Mukuru community in South B Division, Starehe Sub-County, are not serving the intended beneficiaries. 1 borehole at Santa Maria Kayaba Primary School is serving school children and staff only. A source said that the pumping machine cannot handle the capacity to serve the school and the Kayaba community at the same time. Still in Nairobi, child dies, property ruined in slum fire. Detectives in Makadara have launched investigations to establish the cause of a fire at Gatoto Zone in Nairobi's Mukuru Kwaruben slum on Tuesday that left 1.5-year-old child dead and forced more than 200 households to spend the night out in the cold. Now, 500 Diani families face eviction over cheap houses plan. Now, at least 500 families in Diani have been dealt a major blow after the government stood firm on its decision to proceed with the affordable housing project in White House area near Diani Beach in Kwale County. That story is beefed up for you on page 17. Let's move on and take a look at more stories here on the Daily Nation. Now, in Bomet County, residents up in arms as road stalls for 5th time. The contractor had abandoned the site twice in 2021, once in 2023, and twice in 2024. Work has stalled since March with only 10% of the road's upgrade completed. Now, also, jealous wives seized for attacking woman over love affairs. Police in Eldoret have arrested 3 women for allegedly putting pepper in their alleged love rival's private parts, accusing her of having multiple illicit affairs with their husbands. The 24-year-old woman was reportedly assaulted by the trio who branded her a husband snatcher. Okay, let's move on and take a look at more stories that lands us on international news. We start with the US elections. Trump accuses UK's Labour of interference. Prime Minister Keir Starmer dismisses accusations, saying it is property normal. President Biden urges Americans to lock Trump out politically. Now, also in Kampala, Uganda, fuel tanker fire kills 11 people in Uganda. At least 11 people died and several others were injured when a fuel tanker burst into flames in the central Ugandan district of Wakiso. In Johannesburg, dozens treated for food poisoning. 43 pupils at a primary school in KwaZulu-Natal province, South Africa, have been taken to hospital for suspected food poisoning. Authorities say the provincial education department said the pupils of Ngaka Primary School fell ill after consuming snacks bought from vendors outside the institution. Business news this morning on the Daily Nation. Safaricom appreciates customers as it celebrates 24 years. Safaricom CEO Officer Peter Ndegwa fuels a motorbike for a boda rider at Dagoretti Corner Shell petrol station yesterday as they marked 24 years of existence. Now, in Malawi, Zambia now eye Kenya fuel import model. Kenya in March ditched open tender system in fuel import. The countries have expressed interest in the G2G deal currently in use in Kenya. Let's move on and take a look at sports news now on the Daily Nation this morning. Runners eye bigger payout as prize pool surges to 12.95 million shillings. Sunday's 21st edition of the event has attracted 25,000 racers. This is all about the Stanchart Marathon. Now, on other stories, 250 golfers for quote-unquote King of the Course event. A lifetime opportunity to play at a prestigious South African golf course will be on the line this weekend as winners of the 2024 ICA Lion, quote-unquote, King of the Course qualifying events gather at Nyali Golf and Country Club in Mombasa for the tournament's grand finale. Now, in matters NBA, LeBron and son Bronny make history in league. LeBron James and his son Bronny became the first father-son duo to play together in a regular season NBA game on Tuesday at the Los Angeles Lakers beat the Minnesota Timberwolves in their season opener. The sold-out crowd let out a roar when two appeared. Now, also in matters basketball, KPA ready to shine in AWBL qualifiers. KPA women's basketball coach Anthony Ojuku said they are going for glory at the Africa Women's Basketball League Zone 5 qualifiers from October 27th to November 2nd in Zanzibar. Now, on page 38, Kenya in heart of IOC succession battle as Big Boss Thomas Bach comes calling. International Olympic Committee arrives in Kenya today for historic 3-day tour. Front runners for president, Breton Coe and Frenchman Lapatient on charm offensive in Africa ahead of vote in Greece in March. On page 39, cruising bankers not ready to lose lead anytime soon. Title ambitious Leopards stand by seal in Muranga. Table leaders hold pre-match favorites Gor to draw in March. KCB coach Odhiambo feels they should have won. Also, still on page 39, Makamu Oduor's family name Owalo head of funeral committee. Preparations are in high gear for the burial of Harambee Stars and Gor Mahia legend Austin Makamu Oduor next month. That story is beefed up for you on page 39. Let's take a look at the cover page of the Daily Nation this morning. Preparations for transition to grade 9 in shambles. TSC boss tells lawmakers commission allocated funds to recruit 20,000 more teachers on contract. There is an acute shortage of teachers, particularly for science subjects, and inadequate infrastructure to accommodate learners. The new term, CS assures on supply of books 2025. Education Cabinet Secretary Julius Ogamba yesterday said that all the books required by learners will be in schools by the time they reopen on January 6th, 2025. Now, lastly, as we conclude this broadcast, EACC cornered for posting misleading claims in graft case on social media. The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, EACC, is on the spot for posting misleading claims about graft suspects on social media. The matter came up in a Mombasa court when 4 suspects were charged with embezzling over 4 million by falsely claiming it was for the commemoration of World War I. Now, with that story of EACC, we conclude our broadcast here this Wednesday, 24th of October. Thank you so much for staying with the Morning Momentum and for choosing Younib TV. This is the best youth television network in East and Central Africa. Much appreciation for always choosing us. I have been your host, Alfonsoh. See you tomorrow, same time, same place. Bye-bye for now. See you tomorrow.
Go.